Hey, I'm Layne Beachley, looking forward to coming up with Paula McGrath on the Pure Grit podcast. And make sure you tune in, check the socials for details because I'm giving away a signed copy of my new little book, Evolve.
Welcome to Pure Grit with Paula McGrath. If you search the word grit, you'd see that it means to have courage, show strength of character, passion and perseverance. Throughout the series, Paul will chat to guests from all walks of life who have shown pure grit to get to where they are now. Paula, yeah, look, your hair looks fine. I've done the intro, so ready for you to talk now. Yeah, you do your talking thing.
My guest today on my podcast, Pure Grit, I wish I could throw frangipanis right now, like in front of her.
Woo! I'm throwing them.
As she walks in. She doesn't need much introduction. She's a
Give it to us anyway.
Times world champion, surfing superstar on a global stage. She's the first female ever to be the chairperson of Surfing Australia. Layne Beachley, what you have achieved and overcome, you have more than pure grit. Welcome.
Thank you, Paula. It's a pleasure to be on the show.
It's an absolute honour. I actually have to say, I just watched your show reel before, which is to the music of Temper Trap, Sweet Disposition, which is I actually got really teary. Really? Yeah, I teared up because you just, I don't know.
You must be menopausing.
Oh. Josh just fell over. The producer just fell over in my office. If you heard
Is he okay?
He's actually alive. I think you just blew him away. He just blew backwards. And
sorry, Josh. Come back to us.
He's all right.
Okay, welcome back. No bruises, no blood. Let's continue.
Yeah, no, Layne.
It's a very professional show here.
Yes.
Layne, I actually
Amateur
got teary. It was just beautiful watching your show reel. It was all you and your winning all your world titles and just you in the surf and to that beautiful Sweet Disposition, which is such a beautiful song. You're like, what show reel? It's just vision of you.
Well, no, quite honestly though, I play that. I picked a song that I could handle listening to at least once a week, twice a week sometimes, depending on how many speaking gigs I have. And then I have the opportunity to stand at the back of the room and watch that vision before I walk up on stage. And it inspires me every time I see it because I look at it and go, wow, I lived such an amazing life as an athlete. And I've had my trials and tribulations, but when I watch that vision and hear that song, it gives me goosebumps, it fires me up, and that way I can walk on stage full of energy and full of life and excitement to share my stories with the audiences.
Oh, and your stories are just inspiring. Like, Layne, I don't get nervous. Throughout my career, I've talked and interviewed and been with lots of different people from all walks of life, different celebrities, but there's something about you. You just, I don't know, you just do something to me, just your whole story, but you as a human and everything you give, it's just incredible. Like, I'm so honoured to have you on Pure Grit and I'm really appreciative.
Thank you.
I just want to say that. And happy birthday for Sunday. It was just...
Thank you very much.
Well, welcome to 48 because we're both born in the same year.
Yep,
so we're
very
both
close to 50.
We're going through menopause. We get sweaty.
When does it
top
end?
on, top off, top on.
Oh, gosh, it's just a punish. It's such a punish. I started when I was 42. I've been going through this for 6 years now. And it just doesn't. Are
you serious? What are you talking?
I was pretty clear I didn't want children.
Oh, well, your body was telling you that, wasn't it?
So I was in full agreement.
Because I didn't even get pregnant till 39. So, but I'm 3 years.
Late bloomer.
Yeah, I'm 3 years in July. 3 years menopause. So we are called post-menopausal, Layne, but why are we still like...
Post? No, we're still in it, darling. It's not post.
Is it? How long does it take? I thought we're supposed to be post after a year.
No, some people can be in it for 10 years.
Oh, don't tell me that, Layne.
Oh, yeah, enjoy the ride.
Oh, no. Actually, I must say mine's calmed down a little bit, but I just take all natural sort of supplements.
It does that. It comes down and then it fires back up.
Oh,
I feel like the theme song to MasterChef is my life. I'm hot and then I'm cold. I'm yes, I'm no, I'm in, I'm out, and I'm up and I'm down. Katy Perry must have been going through something similar to menopause when she wrote that song.
I don't think she is. Can we start on Pure Grit just to talk about your life, Layne? Like you have an incredible story. I read, you're an author. I read Beneath the Waves. It made me cry. But cry in many ways, in a happy way too, because you're so happy to share your story. And I think it's part of who you are and what you've become. I really do. Like, you know, you were born in Sydney, obviously in 1972. And I read in your book that you were born you were adopted out when you were newborn. And the beautiful story about it is your parents, Val and Neil, only had to wait 10 months for you. These days, my son keeps saying, can you adopt a baby? I want a brother. You know, I go, Jam, you'll be like 20 by the time I could adopt a baby brother or sister for you. You know, like.
Do you turn around and say, will you look after it?
Yeah, exactly. No, I'm so done. But, you know, 10 months, that wasn't very long. Like for.
No.
But these days it takes years. And years and years.
And these days, I mean, you've got to fit into a specific criteria. They've made it so prohibitive for people to adopt kids, and there's so many wonderful kids out there just seeking the home of loving, nurturing parents, and they're denied the opportunity because they don't fit the mold of what a suitable adopting or fostering parent should look like. How old, the demographic, all of that stuff.
And your story being born to a young mum who was going to see a modelling agency from the book I read, like going to see like an agent, maybe was going to, wanting to become a model, and then goes in, has the meeting, like back in the day, sort of was a bit like that, you know. Come back to my house, you know, we'll talk about your modelling career, which is, I'm assuming, sort of what it might have been like for a young 17-year-old. She's 17. And then upon her, the horrible situation of sort of like a rape. And then here comes the beautiful Layne.
Yes, I'm a beautiful butterfly.
You're a beautiful butterfly. But Layne, is that something you didn't find out till later in life? And you had beautiful parents that adopted you with a brother. You already had a brother. He was 5. Is that correct when you were adopted?
Yes. So my brother was 5 years of age when I was adopted, and the reason that they adopted me, this is Valerie and Neil Beachley, is because Valerie had severe complications giving birth to Jason, was rushed into emergency with a C-section, and they always wanted a baby boy and girl and weren't able to have it. Plus Valerie was a little older when she had babies too.
How old was?
I think she was in her mid to late 30s as well. And anyway, so due to the complications, that's when they applied for an adoption. And as you suggested, or as you mentioned, it only took them 10 months. And then when I was allowed out of the hospital, because I was 6 weeks premature. And then
you were really ready to come into the world.
I was in a rush to get the hell out of there. I mean, there was no love in my mother's womb.
No, that's right.
And she wasn't able to keep me, and obviously wasn't happy with the situation in which I was conceived. I felt a lot of fear, obviously, subconsciously in my cells, and just wanted to get the hell out of that environment. Yeah. So I jumped out of there at 6 weeks preemie, and then jumped into a minicrib for another 6 weeks so I could learn how to breathe. And that's where my fighting spirit emanates from, undoubtedly.
Oh, absolutely.
And then was brought home to a beach-loving family with the last name Beachley and became a process.
That's just amazing. Because you were born Tanya. That just doesn't work. Tanya.
No, it doesn't work for me.
No, Tanya does not work. And Layne.
With no disrespect to all the Tanyas out there, but it just doesn't work for me.
When you think it's a distinguished name, it's a different name, Layne. And
Yeah.
Is it from your mum, potentially your mum's best friend was Elaine? Is it sort of a Layne?
There's got to be something, you know, my dad hasn't been able to explain it, and we lost Valerie too young. So Valerie died when I was about 6.5, 7 years of age. And so we were never able to ask Val, where did the name Layne come from? Because when they brought me home, Val brought me home, and Dad was in New Zealand or somewhere, and she said, well, we've got her. What do you want to call her? And Dad went, I don't bloody know. Come up with something.
I don't know.
So that's where they came up with Layne.
Oh, it's a really beautiful name. It was meant, that name was definitely meant for you, Layne.
Thanks.
It's just,
I do love it. And now there's a lot of people who have stolen it.
Really? So it's quite a popular name.
It
I don't
is
know
now.
any other Laynes. I don't know one. I only
I've
know
met quite
you.
a few.
Have you?
I was at a
What
cafe. What age? Oh, this
age are
particular
they?
girl.
Yeah.
I think she was in her late teens.
Okay.
And I was at a cafe, one of my favourite cafes in the back of Bundall in Queensland, and I ordered my vegan breakfast or brunch or whatever it was, and she said, okay, so what's your name? And I said Layne, and she went, how do you spell it? And I said Layne, and she went, that's how I spell mine. And you've got the same name as me. And I said, yeah, that's really cool. I've found that there's quite a few of us around these days. And she's like, oh yeah, it's cool. It's a really nice name, isn't it? I said, yeah, I love it. So I went and sat down, and then all of a sudden she had this awakening. She's like, oh my God, it's you I'm named after.
That's what I was thinking. She's like, oh no. Oh,
Yeah.
it's Layne, so you lost your mum so young, Val, and she was just going in for like cosmetic surgery for the cesarean scar. So it was just like routine surgery.
Yes, unfortunately, well, however you look at it,
surgery
like Val,
is dangerous, like but
yes. So she was going in for cosmetic surgery procedure, and I think there was just this series of events that unfolded: undetected high blood pressure, low staph levels, just complications in the surgery, and then all of a sudden she flatlines, and we lost her on the operating table.
it's just,
she had a brain hemorrhage during the surgery, so it was deeply distressing. And I really feel for my dad having to watch someone he loves so dearly just disappear in front of his eyes.
How do you recover from that loss and grief so young?
Well, as an 8-year-old, I wasn't aware of the 5 stages of grief, nor was I aware of the concept of forever. And actually, no, I was 7. It was deeply distressing, but I also remember, I remember feeling the pain and the sadness, and then also not really truly understanding what it all meant. Had several nightmares and terrors, and fortunately I had a loving brother and a very supporting, loving father. So I still had the support that I needed to build the resilience that was required to overcome a challenge like that.
Yeah, it's hard to comprehend so young. Just so
yes,
young.
It is.
My son is 8, and I just, they don't know how to deal with emotions. I watch him, and I think, how can I help him navigate emotions? Not having his dad.
I feel for kids these days, because I feel that parents, they don't want their kids to experience the same kind of or similar lines of suffering and struggle and pain that we experience. So therefore we wrap them up, and we're building reliance, and we're robbing them of resilience. And so to establish pure grit in kids, they need to have the freedom and the space and the safety to feel whatever it is that they're feeling, and the ability to process it. And if they're not allowed that, then that's when it becomes numbed through other measures. And I was allowed to cry. I was allowed to be scared. I was allowed to fail. I was allowed to stuff up. I was allowed to scream. I mean, I had the freedom to do it all, and I feel that's what enabled me to build the resilience.
That's so good. And so, Layne, you're a bit of a tomboy, obviously, growing up.
Yeah.
And you started surfing very young. What sort of age?
4.
That is, so who taught you to surf?
Well, my dad introduced me to surfing. He was a surfer. My older brother Jason was a surfer, and he still surfs. He surfs a longboard. And of course, any girl that grows up with an older brother doing something, they want to do it too. And I can honestly say I do it a whole lot better than my brother does.
I've got to say,
And
imagine going out with your brother in the surf and then I'll show you.
Yeah,
I'll show you how to cut.
Don't prod the bear.
No. So you were obviously really, really competitive young.
Super competitive as a kid, yes. Grew up in a male-dominated household, then started to participate in a male-dominated sport and found myself in plenty of male-dominated environments where I felt the ability, I found my place to thrive. And I don't think it had anything to do with the status of being a male-dominated environment, other than what fueled that was my internal competitive drive, my intrinsic desires, my values around growth and improvement and challenge and embracing all of that. And then having the support that I needed to fulfill my ambitions and making sure that I surrounded myself with people.
What about schooling? Were you one of those kids that just skipped school because the surf was up?
No, I never did. I never wagged school. Surprising myself when I say that.
You never did?
Obviously. No. I love school.
What school did you go to?
I went to Balgala Heights Primary School, and then I went to an all-girls school called McKellar Girls High for high school.
Oh. And so you never skipped, so you didn't have to. Would you surf before school or after school?
Predominantly after school and all weekend, and occasionally I'd surf in the backyard pool before school.
Who would make
Yeah, my dad would get me ready for school, and I would go up and waiting for my brother, and I'd just go up and put the foamy across the length of the pool and run and jump and surf across the backyard pool and then step off the other side and turn around and come back the other way.
So when did you ever decide, right, I want to become world champion? What sort of age did you go, this is what I want to focus on? I am going to become world champion one day.
When I was 8 years old, that's when Dad told me I was adopted. And that was a deeply distressing time. Upon reflection, I found that to be more traumatic than losing my mother. And that's maybe because of the ability to analyse, judge and criticise the language that came around it. And it was my own internal dialogue. It wasn't my father's dialogue, because his was very kind and compassionate and nurturing. My dialogue suggested the opposite. So he was saying things like, you're my baby girl, and I was saying, I don't belong here. He was saying, we always wanted you, and I was saying, I've been abandoned. And so when I started to tune into that dialogue, I instantly responded in a way of being super defensive and deflective. And
I can imagine.
As an 8-year-old, I decided, right, if I become a world champion, I will be deserving of love.
Yes, and everyone will love me.
Everyone will love me.
And everyone does love you. You did it.
Oh, well.
So that's when you decided. You just and so you started competing at what age then? So if you started
14.
Oh wow, okay. So you just kept on surfing and then started competing.
Yeah, so I surfed. I fell in love with tennis and surfing and cricket and soccer and hockey and basketball and volleyball.
So lots of sport. Yeah, every sport.
I loved playing sport. And then when I started competing in surfing, I came dead last in the first event I ever competed in. And that actually inspired me to work harder. I was so disappointed, so pissed off with myself that I went, right.
Shitty. You would have been shitty.
Yeah. Instead of discouraging me, it inspired me to work harder and do more. So then the following year, I won my first regional title, like a scholastic title, and then I won the state scholastic title. And so I started to have a little bit of success in the sporting.
Started to get the taste for.
I did. I had the taste of victories. Yeah, it's like a dog that include. I don't know. No, I'm not going to say that. Yeah. Anyway,
you can say it.
Anyway. Well, I was going to say, it's like a dog that gets a taste for blood. You can't ever stop them from wanting it again.
Got the taste.
And I got the taste for winning, and I just could not get enough of it. And I started competing on the pro tour fresh out of high school.
Wow.
And that's when I was 17.
And when I talk to, I can't surf. I live less than 200 meters from Alex Beach. And I wish because I grew up in Adelaide and I grew up in the Adelaide Hills. So I was so far from the water. And my son is 8 and has got the bug. He's got it. He's got the surfing bug. And Josh, my producer, his daughter has got the surfing bug and she's 6. So, you know, we live in that. But when you talk to the surfers, they say, Layne, like just locally, everyone. I was talking to Shane Bevan and he's Layne, you know, she was such a big, she learned on the big waves. She was such an awesome big wave surfer. And I know you had a previous boyfriend in a previous life before you were married, Ken Bradshaw. Was that where having a big wave surfer boyfriend, is that where you just went, right, I'm going to take on these monster waves?
My big wave surfing love affair started in really humble beginnings, which is Manly Beach.
Really?
Actually, I believe my big wave love affair started when I started skateboarding because I love to go fast. And so I would run to the top of the hill and I would go down as fast as I possibly could. I loved feeling adrenaline. I loved feeling fear, the excitement. It brought everything to life in me. So big wave surfing, I feel, was just a natural progression for me to evolve from being a skateboarder to obviously a surfer.
What's the biggest wave you've been on? What are you in?
I rode a couple of 50-foot waves many years ago, which is the height of a 5-story building.
Are you crazy? You are absolutely
a little
crazy. I love it. You would have looked like a tiny little flea on that wave. That big waves just blow me, like it just blows my mind when you see big wave surfers, and there would have been you. I'm going to have to look up footage of you now on some 50.
You won't find it.
Won't find any? Where was that?
No, I didn't. I didn't let anyone know I was going out there. This was on the North Shore of Oahu in Hawaii.
What, Sunset or Bansi Pipeline?
It was an outside reef break, about 3/4 of a mile out to sea, called Outside Log Cabins, and it's kind of in between 2 infamous surf spots called Pipeline and Waimea Bay, and then you draw a diamond out from that. And that's where Outside Log Cabins is. Yeah.
Wow.
It was amazing.
And can you still feel the feeling of that?
Yeah.
I can. Size wave.
Yes, I utilize the story. It's one of my stories that I tell from stage when I'm keynote speaking about fear, confronting fear.
Feel the fear and do it anyway.
Well, to a degree, but managing your mindset when you're under extreme amount of pressure and still committing to stepping into the opportunity, because what happens when we're on the precipice of growth and opportunity, we tend to step away from it. Mm-hmm. And that particular experience taught me the importance of tuning into what I was saying to myself to then determine whether the dialogue matched the action and the outcome.
So going on a 50-foot wave, obviously you've had some big wipeouts.
Yeah.
What injuries go with Layne Beachley wiping out on a massive wave?
Well, fortunately, I never wiped out on that wave because the ultimate consequence for that particular wave was death. So I feared not focus on that particular situation. Okay. However, if you go from the top of my head down to my toes, there's not a part of my body that's been untouched by the severity and the ferocity of the ocean. I've broken my nose several times. I've herniated a disc in my neck.
We've got that in common.
We do have that in common. Yes. Well, I didn't break my neck. I just herniated a disc. So it's severed 80% of my spinal cord. I've fractured ribs. I've rotated my pelvis. I've crushed and fractured my coccyx. I've torn my medial and my meniscus in my knees. I've had stitches in my face. I've hammered myself.
Wow. And do you have, you're still surfing, obviously, like for leisure?
Yeah, I love it.
Still, and you don't have any aches and nothing holds you back, any of your injuries? It does.
Yeah, I'm in full-time management of my body. My hip still causes me a few challenges, and my neck I'm constantly in management because I know, similar to you, you've had some pretty serious challenges with your neck, and it takes a lot of commitment to heal it.
Tried to surf recently. So when I was in Hawaii, I thought, I'll start learning. But I can't paddle out and look up. So
Yeah.
if I look at the board and just paddle with my face down, but I just can't do that.
So one of the things I had to resort to when my neck got to that problem, I had that much pain that I couldn't hold my neck up either, that I actually put a foam pad under my chest in my wetsuit, and it elevated my chest. So I was able to at least, Yeah. Oh
wow!
In the event that
I think I've
really
missed my calling, but you know what? I still have a go. Like I still have a go with even now. Gem's foamy in the whitewash. Not good. Paddling's probably not my thing now because of my injury.
Get someone else to do it. Get someone to push you out and push you in. You've just got to get to your feet.
Push me out of the way, but I just stand up. But,
that's all you need to do.
I wish I had learnt how to surf as a child. It's just the ocean is, obviously your place where you belong in the ocean. You belong
it's
there.
My happy place.
It is. And I feel like there's some people that can't swim, Layne. You think, wow, they will never experience just being free in the ocean, like diving under a wave, or I think about people that can't swim. They're missing out, but they don't feel safe there. I feel the safest ever in the ocean. And so I wish I could ride a wave, because I just dive under them and holding onto the bottom and watching them go over me. And I just think of you, what that feeling must be when you're out alone in the ocean with your board. And, I can sort of feel it when I watch your showreel. I can feel the feeling that you must get. There's dolphins in your dolphins catching waves next to you. It's like, oh.
Yeah, it's a pretty, it's a real visceral experience. And as you're suggesting, as you're talking about the beauty of being able to surrender yourself to a force, it's so much more powerful than you are. And the ocean for me is like going home. It's almost, for me, it's like going back into the womb. I feel so held, nurtured, but I also recognize and respect the force and the power and the unpredictability of it, and I have to surrender to it. So as a self-confessed control freak, it's the perfect environment for me to surrender to and just immerse myself in daily.
And it's so healing too. It's just such a healing.
Very healing.
So Layne, you also got over chronic fatigue like twice.
I did.
How? How do you must have burned yourself out, obviously.
Oh, I flogged myself. Yes. Oh gosh. Well, I was training like a triathlete to win a surfing contest, and I was training actually with rugby league players. So I was running sand dunes and lifting weights.
I heard about you running sand dunes and doing all this cross training. And I
was training with someone that was a very close friend of both you and I, which is Dino.
Yeah.
And Lee and those boys, yes.
Dino, that's a blast from the past.
I know. So training with triathletes and Ironmen and rugby league players and other world champion surfers. So I was really pushing myself really hard. And I wasn't aware of the importance of nutrition to support my body in recovery and fuel that correctly to ensure that I can continue doing that. And as well as that, I was on a lot of antibiotics as a kid, so my immune system was already compromised. And then I was getting up sick at 5 o'clock in the morning and training in the middle of winter when it was 6 degrees pouring with rain. So I just kept pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing, and ended up falling in a heap. And the first chronic fatigue episode wasn't that debilitating, but the second one was extremely debilitating. And that was the one where I had to really invest every ounce of my being to committing to doing whatever it was going to take to heal myself and giving myself the time. It actually started, the recovery process started when I forgave myself for being in that position. Wow.
So Layne, 7 world titles, no one has done that, male or female.
Yes. Steph Gilmore's won 7. Kelly Slater's won 11. But I've won 6 in a row.
But you did it, consecutive.
Yeah, I'm the only surfer in history to win 6 consecutive world titles.
Oh, it's just amazing. And
thanks.
Yeah, it's just amazing. So, Layne, now what you're doing, you're so busy. You've written books. You've got Beneath the Waves. You've got Brave like Beachley, which I must get for my son. You've got Evolve.
Brave Beachley.
Yep.
Yeah.
Evolve, which is your
Mhm.
latest book, and now you've been filming, secretly filming something that I can't wait. That's cutting through all the shit. I think you're going to cut through the shit in this. It's like
Yeah.
7 rounds. Is that because 7 rounds? Where's the 7 rounds? Is that surfing 7 rounds? I don't like a 7.
Yeah.
Is
So
it?
so I've
'Cause
created
I
an
know there's
online
7.
platform.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've created this online platform called the Awake Academy.
Yeah.
And you'll see all the writing up above.
Yeah, I have. I can see. I'm reading all your empathy.
So the objective of the Awake Academy is to
Yeah.
help people wake up, own their shit, and
Yeah.
live a life that they
I
love.
love
trust and
it.
love.
Own your
And
shit.
so own your shit. So I've
Yeah.
created this. My first course is called Own Your Truth.
Mhm.
And Own Your Truth is a no bullshit 7-round online course to unlock your internal GPS. And the reason it's 7 rounds is because I had to surf through 7 rounds to win a contest. And I'm giving everyone a trophy at the end of this, a virtual trophy at the end of the course. So I'm very excited about it. It's been a lot of fun creating it.
And you've been filming it, and then when will we get to do it? What?
It's later in the year? It's building. Yeah, I'd say we'll be out around July. First couple of weeks of July, I believe that will be available for people to log on and start doing some personal development and just calling people on their shit. You know, we're walking through this, and especially during these challenging times, you know, if we continue to numb and suppress our feelings, we aren't able to transmute them. We aren't able to get past them.
You have owned your shit, Layne. Like, honestly, like,
I have.
Just knowing you eventually went and met your biological mother, didn't you? Later in life.
Yes, I did. Yeah, I was 27.
How was that?
Yeah, that took a lot of courage because, you know, I spent my whole life being driven by this fear that I was never going to be deserving of love, that I was never enough. And then and that was all projected blame and fear based on this adopted story that I told myself. When I met my mother, firstly, there was no question she was my mother. It felt like I was looking in the mirror in 17 years' time.
Yeah.
So there was no fear of someone being a gold digger or a fame digger or whatever people were projecting onto me. However, I felt conflicted by the nature of having a mother because my dad had remarried by that stage, and he was and I have a sister from his second wife, Christina, who's my sister Catherine, who's 18 years younger than me. So my brother's 5 years older and my sister's 18 years younger.
Yeah.
And my dad's got 3 kids with 3 different mothers, and Christina was currently going through some challenging times, and we ended up losing her 3 years later to breast cancer.
Oh no.
And so my reticence to connect with my birth mother, I believe, was a result of always feeling like motherhood equated to loss. So I was really reticent to open my heart up and connect with her. I was really conflicted by having a mother.
Is there any, because I've had a few friends that are adopted and then met their biological parent, but they didn't feel that much of a connection. They just realised how much they were connected with their adopted family. Did you feel the same thing?
I felt a strong connection with my mother, but I also denied myself the truth of it.
Right.
Because I was protecting myself.
You're protecting, yeah.
Because I've been abandoned once before. What's going to stop her from abandoning me again?
Exactly. So did that you end up staying in contact?
We stayed in contact we had a real tumultuous dance of a relationship. She pushed me away, I pushed her away, she pushed me away, I pushed her away. And then 2 years ago, she rang me and said, can you come? Because she lived in Spokane in Washington State. So she rang me and asked me to come and see her, and I jumped on a plane 2 days later and raced over there, and she had been given 3 weeks to live. And so I went into the hospice in which she was currently dosed up to the eyeballs on morphine, and had the last hour of her waking life with her, and had an amazing conversation. We forgave each other. We told each other how much we love each other. And then she went to sleep and never woke up again. And she was 62 years of age.
Oh, so she's young too. Oh,
Yeah,
Layne,
she was a pup.
you know, you know how to bounce back from loss. Like you're,
I do.
yeah, and it's all credit to you. I didn't know that
Thanks.
about your biological mum. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. No,
Yeah.
it's, I have processed the emotion and the sadness and then the fear and the guilt one of the things that helps me reconcile things like that was when you start going into this mindset of if only or what if and I can't believe and geez, I missed out. The one thing that helps me reconcile that is the gratitude that I have in my heart for the moments that I did have.
Yeah.
And that gratitude really is centered on that 5-minute conversation I had with her right before she fell asleep. So I'm just so grateful
you're
for
actually
that.
really honoured to be there. That's quite an honour, really, that you were actually there with her.
Well, I honoured the relationship because I didn't have to go. We
No.
hadn't spoken in 6 months.
No.
We hadn't seen each other for over a year. I didn't have to go, but it was the right thing to do because it was what I really wanted to do. It was a hell yeah, I'm going. And there was no question. There was no second guessing.
Oh, it's quite beautiful, actually. I feel a bit sad because I didn't know that, and I'm sorry if I felt like, I pressed that.
No, not at all.
I didn't know that was, that's a lot of loss. And I understand bouncing back from loss in a small way compared to you. I had a son 13 years ago and I gave birth at 6 months and I had to say hello and goodbye on Mother's Day of all days is the anniversary. And people were always like, how did you get it? And I said, because how did you get over it? I said, it was very tough. But I was like, I'm so grateful. That might have been my mum moment. I didn't know what was ahead because it was very difficult for me to get pregnant. It wasn't easy. Some people, it's so easy, not for me. But I was like, that might have been my mummy moment. I got to carry a baby for 6 months. I'm happy with that. Some people never get to do it, ever. So that's how I dealt with it. I was really happy that I got to say hello and say goodbye. Little did I know years later Jem would come along, but that was just a miracle. And I can sort of understand how you can process loss and how you can be positive through it. And I think a lot of people, what you're giving back is teaching people how to be resilient, and you can bounce back and be positive and change your mindset. But
it also a part of that process requires us to recognize how we're feeling right here, right now. To recognize that it is a challenge and there is fear, there is sadness, there is disappointment, regret, remorse. All of those things are real. They're valid. Our emotions are valid, and we have to have the courage to identify them, express them, and sit with them and process them.
Do you sometimes have those moments on anniversaries or special days where you still cry and have? Yes, so do I. Yeah. You have those moments and I just let myself feel them, and the next next day
let
I'm happy.
Go.
Yeah, let them go. Feel it and let them go. You're just incredible. So this new venture for you, what you've got you're just so busy. You're an ambassador for
not really.
Aim for the stars. That fascinates me.
Does it?
Charity. Yeah. But you're not doing that anymore.
I wound it up.
You wound that one up because you're so busy. But did you meet anyone through that inspired you? Because it was.
Oh my goodness!
You
hundreds.
Did? Oh, you
hundreds
did.
of girls. Yes. Oh well, over 15 years, we provided about close to $1 million in scholarships to over 500 girls.
That's amazing.
So there's some incredibly inspiring stories. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
That's amazing. So you have lots of stories that.
Yeah, so many inspiring, incredible women in sport, business, arts, academia, science, law, you name it, we've supported it.
I love
it's a really
that.
rewarding
experience. I love you for that. Thank you so much for giving so much back. If there was one thing you could change, what would you change? Like in Australia or anything, if there's one thing that you could.
Yeah, the one thing that always comes up when I'm asked questions along this line is empathy. I just feel like we have a massive empathy deficit in this world, and it starts just with compassion for each other, recognizing that we're all connected. We're all made up of the same stuff. We've all come from the same place. What exists in me exists in you. And
exactly.
we tend to operate through this separatist mentality that keeps us divided, us versus them and you versus me.
And, you know, having gone through pain and loss, that's one thing you come out with, empathy. It's I'm so proud that I have empathy, because I think it's something to be proud of, because there are people you just like, you can just feel it. They're like, they've got absolute no empathy. You can just see it. You think, oh well, poor you.
Well, and I'm not just talking about empathy for human beings either. I'm talking about empathy for the planet, empathy for the species that we are making extinct, empathy for the resources that we take for granted, empathy for the air that we continue to pollute. Like I have a lot of empathy for nature, and I just want us to start respecting that and recognizing that, yes, we're the problem, but we are also the solution.
We are. And you sort of been a spokesperson for Planet Ark too, I see.
Mm-hmm.
And,
yes.
And you mentioned before you went to have something to eat. Are you vegan, Layne? No?
No, I'm not. No, I'm not vegan.
No.
I choose vegan when I can, but I'm not vegan.
But you're not. No, so
all organic.
I like going to vegan cafes as well. I'm not vegan, but I really like plant-based diet as well. I was just wondering. No, you're not. Okay. Well, I wondered, because they say, the saying is, how do you know if someone's vegan? They'll tell you.
It's true.
That's the saying. So the saying goes. So out in the surf, you love music, I know, and you're married to a beautiful Kirk Pengelly from In Excess, and you met in like 2002. So you two have been together a really long time. What is the secret to a beautiful partnership like you two have? What is the secret?
Oh, I hate to say it, but it's communication. I know it's cliche. But the communication channels are open and honest and clear. We never go to bed angry. We let each other know how much we love each other every day. I'm not allowed to go surfing without giving him a kiss goodbye. We've just got and it is all about the little things. It's that little tender touch, but just making sure that you feel safe and nurtured and understood and heard, and that starts with communication.
Oh wow. And you've been a stepmom to his daughter April you've been a mum, a stepmom.
Well, I wouldn't say that. Not really. No, because April lives with her mum when she's not on set at Neighbours. So she's prides herself with being brought up by a single mum and absolutely adores her mother. And Karen has done an amazing job raising April. And I know Kirk has invested his heart and soul into doing what he can to be there, and absolutely adores April as well. So I'd say I'm more of a friend.
You're a friend. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. I'm just a good friend, and I love April, and I'm proud of the fact that she's really embraced this acting career. I mean, she chose two of the world's worst professions when it comes to
I didn't even know that it was in Neighbours. I must live under a rock. That's amazing.
Oh, well, I didn't know. She was a model, and now she's an actress.
Well,
I mean, if you're going to set yourself up, if you want to set yourself up for rejection, you just choose those two professions. Do
you want to, thank you, but no thank you. Next,
thank
you, but no thank you. But then you've got to be resilient.
Persevered.
You've got to go for about 50 castings before someone even says yes. So, she has persevered. And how old is she now?
She's done well. 31. 31.
Oh, wow. I haven't watched Neighbours, I don't think, since Kylie Minogue was on it. Like, that's why.
Hasn't changed much.
That's why I didn't know.
Except for the fashion.
I don't have time to watch.
No. We've all got the time for doing things that we enjoy, and watching Neighbours is not one of yours.
Do you watch?
No, I don't.
Okay, it's not just me.
It's not just you.
Layne, if you could leave us with a piece of wisdom, Layne's wisdom, and the listeners, what would be your life motto, your favourite bit of wisdom?
My favourite bit of wisdom.
Something you live by?
Yeah, so something I subscribe to quite strongly is the power of words. And most of us think that the only power words have over us are the words that were spoken. But the internal dialogue is just as profoundly strong as the external dialogue. And if we are really critical, judgmental, harsh, the relationship that we have with ourselves sets the tone for every relationship that we have outside of us. And so we need to elevate ourselves with love and compassion, so then we can actually elevate everyone else.
Did everyone hear that? That is brilliant advice. Like, honestly, that's just beautiful. Like, Layne, when I started this podcast, I didn't expect it to be happening down during everyone being locked down, but it's sort of life has made it happen in that way where everyone's been sort of available. But I put your name out there very, very early on as, she's the epitome of pure, all the people I'm thinking of. And then last week I do a specialist intensive care doctor, and then he's talking about you. Just, Why? It was just, I saw, and Layne Beachley out in the surf, just your name was coming up. It's like, oh my goodness, I didn't know. He didn't know. Like, it was just in one of my podcasts, there pops up your name, because it was like, okay, I put that out in the universe a long time ago. Mm-hmm. And there he was saying, she's the most beautiful human being. I see her out in the surf.
Obviously haven't dropped in on him then.
Well, I said that. Has she dropped in? Has she dropped in? He goes, I just make way. No, she doesn't. Everyone were like, right, look out, here comes Layne, Yeah. But yeah, he said he sees you in the surf and you're just so lovely. And it was just, it just blew me away that there was someone else, another guest mentioning you. Which
that is very kind.
With such beautiful words too. Like, this is probably just a stranger that sees you in the surf.
Yeah, that's nice. I like that. No, when I was a kid, I became very aware of the impact of my actions and my words on others. And so when I became, I don't like using the word famous, because that's not what I feel like I became, but when I became known and when I became watched and analysed, I became very aware of my status as a role model, and I wanted to ensure that whatever that I did had an aspirational feeling to it, because if people are looking up to me, I want to earn the right to be in that situation, and I want to maintain that position.
You have earned the right. You have an Order of Australia medal. My goodness.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
Layne Beachley. O-O-M.
A-O.
A-O-M. Oh, A-O.
A-O. I'm an officer of the Order of Australia.
You're an officer.
Yeah, I'm not playing around with these medals or anything. I'm just straight into an officer.
You're straight into an officer.
Put a pin on it.
Oh, God, I love you. And your song, I was reading your song when you were out in the surf. Tell everyone what it was that was always in your head. What artist?
Lose yourself?
Yep.
You better lose yourself in the music. The moment you own it, you better never let it go. Yo, only get one shot. Do not miss this chance to bowl. This opportunity comes once in a lifetime. You better.
Oh, Layne Beachley, thank you so much for joining me on Pure Grit.
You are so welcome. Thank you so much for having me, Paula. It's been an absolute delight talking to you and sharing stories with you.
You've just made my week even brighter.
Yay! I aspire to do that.
Hey, Layne, can I just get, do you want me to just get Layne to do an intro, Josh?
Yeah. Do you mind if I just ask one question that I'm
Oh, yes, ask.
Yes, hello. Do you mind if I just ask something that I've just been wondering, just about surfers in general?
Yes.
With surfing, like, many use it as like a de-stressor or a fun time, or just a way to sort of escape from the world.
You asked me to ask that.
Do you think that you're competing and you're just striving to be number one? Do you feel it took some of the fun out of surfing, or do you feel like you enjoyed the fight? Do you feel like you enjoyed it in another way, or?
It's a great question that can't be answered easily. So the only way that I can put this into context for you is that to answer the first part of the question, yes, sometimes the joy of surfing went out of it. And it wasn't that I was enjoying the fight. It was that I was so invested in struggle that I believed it had to be a fight. The second piece to that question is I was so invested in struggle that I ended up burning myself out. So therefore I had to take a break from surfing to reinvigorate my passion for it. Otherwise I just kept pushing shit uphill and it was just this fight and struggle, and my emotions and my physicality, everything was burnt out and worn out. So I just had to walk away from it. Now I'm more in love with surfing than I've ever been in my life. I live for it. I wake up every day looking at it. I schedule my whole schedule around it, around the surf forecast, and I just can't wait to get in the water every day. And my expectations around my performance have certainly matured along with my age. So I don't go out there expecting myself to win a heat every time I surf. I go out there just expecting myself to have fun and bring joy to the water and move with the ocean. And if I do one turn that inspires me, that's enough, right? I don't have to do that on every wave I catch.
What is it?
Carve, Rio, floater, roundhouse.
Yeah, I don't know all the terminology. So Layne, the surf's big in Sydney today.
Yeah, surf's been big over the last 4 days. It's been pumping and it's been humbling because I paddled out at Freshwater, my local surf spot down here sometimes, and I got washed in. So I paddled back out and got washed in again, and then I took off my leg rope and put my board under my arm and walked home. I went, okay. I surrender.
I saw even Kelly Slater broke a few boards.
That's because Kelly charges like a maniac. There's a 50-year-old dude that surfs like a 25-year-old dude. It's insane what he does.
I love it.
He's got the quiver to back it up.
When you say that you're into big wave surfing, or you were, was that paddling into waves, or were you getting towed into waves?
Well, I was paddling into waves well before I was towing into waves. And that's because tow-in surfing didn't really start to come to the fore until the late 90s. By that stage, I was living in Hawaii, and Ken Bradshaw, who I was dating for 4 years living there, he was a pioneer of tow-in surfing. So he introduced me to tow-in surfing, taught me how to tow, taught me how to drive the jet ski and then be towed by it. And there's a lot of technique that goes into doing that. It's not like you just jump on a jet ski and go, oh, no, I'll go surf 50-foot waves today. All right, sign me up. You've really got to work your way up to being a competent driver and surfer. And so then I started pioneering tow-in surfing and started chasing down the biggest waves women have ever surfed. And I loved it. I was just full on adrenaline junkie. I couldn't get enough of it. And now as I've gotten older and wiser, I'm happy just to sit on the sidelines and watch other people do it.
And put your surfboard under your arm and go, I'm going home.
I'm going home. My 5'10's not big enough today. Well, there's other people out there on 9-foot boards. I'm paddling around on my 5'10. I got this.
Since I was surfing when I was younger, I've just noticed more and more and more girls in the water each year, it seems like. And I don't know if that's a byproduct of you and Steph Gilmore and people being inspired by that.
Apparently it's all my fault.
Yeah, it's all your fault.
Well, it's great.
We love you for it.
Just so into it, she just loves it. But was there anyone that you had to look up to in a professional sense when you were sort of younger, or was it more just your family that inspired you to get into surfing?
My family inspired me to get into surfing, and then the boys that I surfed with inspired me to keep coming back every day. I refer to the guys that supported me as my honesty barometers. There was plenty of dream thieves in the water that told me I was never going to make it because I'm a girl.
I can imagine.
Girls can't surf. Oh, they were dickheads.
Yeah.
Then when I decided that I wanted to be a world champion surfer, I just was very resourceful. Growing up in Manly, I had that distinct opportunity to surround myself with world champions. So from Guy Leach to Pam Burridge and everything in between. So I started traveling and training with world champions like Wendy Botha and Pam and Pauline and Barton Lynch and Tom Carroll. So I utilized the resources I had around me. So to answer your question, honestly, I never looked up to anybody because I didn't want to be like anybody else. I didn't put people on pedestals, and I still don't. I treat everybody equally. Same. I don't put people on pedestals just because they've achieved monumental success or whatever they've done. It means nothing. As long as you're a good human being, that's what I respect. And I think one of the things that has brought Kirk and I together so strongly is that we have this mutual understanding, but also mutual respect for each other. And we're wholeheartedly in support of each other.
Sorry, just one more thing. My son, we've just watched Bethany Hamilton's documentary. I don't know if you've seen that, where she
Unstoppable.
Yeah, where she strives to surf Jaws, and he's ever since watching that.
She's just got to turn a light on. We can't see. We've lost her.
Ever since watching, he's 5 years old, and every time we go down the beach, he goes, "Oh, barrel! Look at that barrel!"
Oh.
And he said, can you ask her if she's surfed Jaws?
I have not surfed Jaws. I've been out there, but that was back in the days when we were expected to. Oh no, it was actually before they even started paddling into it. We're getting towed in, but it was too scary.
Yeah.
Okay, so another question.
Which is pretty insane for
You've got time and you can transport to anywhere, any surf break, anywhere in the world. Where?
Uncrowded. Just
like no crowds, just to yourself. Where? Today, if you can go.
Honestly, one of my favourite places in the world to surf is a place called Scorpion Bay in Mexico, in Baja, California. And what makes it so special is this perfect right-hander, and there's about 6 different points around in the region. But then also you get to come out of the water and drink margaritas and eat fish tacos. I mean, it just doesn't get any better than that. Surfing perfect waves, drinking margaritas and eating fish tacos and chips and guac. I am in heaven.
I love it.
Take me there now. Beam me up, Scotty.
Take it there now. That's it.
Ready.
Oh, thank you, Layne. Did you like that? Oh, I really love Layne. And she gave away a copy of her signed book, which to one lucky listener. Please like, subscribe so you don't miss anything that's coming up. I'd love a comment too, or get in contact with me on social media or on my website, puregrit.com.au. I'm really grateful for you for viewing my YouTube channel. Very new YouTube channel. Wow. Next week, I've got an intensive care specialist, Dr. Matthew Zoller. He was instrumental in setting up the intensive care response for COVID. Coronavirus in Australia. He's also someone who overcame a lot of adversity in his rise to become an intensive care specialist. Look forward to you. Thanks for stopping by. See you soon.